welcome back to the channel. Today, for some reason, there's an advert playing in the background.
Yeah.
But what's going on today? We're going to be discussing the January transfer window under Sir Jim Ratcliffe. What new shiny signings are going to be made to distract you from the absolute chaos that's going on at the club? And obviously, with such an important topic, we've brought in 2 out of the 6 Avengers today. Shreyas and Cheve, how are we doing, fellas?
Doing well.
Very well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I see it's snowing in India. It's got that cold.
Yeah, times are changing.
Yeah, well, wait till you get to Manchester, mate. It's fucking like that consistently. So, yeah, look, everybody else, let us know how you're doing in the chat. Let me know your thoughts on the situation as well. How will Sir Jim spend in January? What changes is he going to make at board level? We're going to speak about Bruno Fernandes as well, the contrasting form for international duty and Manchester United. And then I've got something a little bit funny towards the end, which we'll discuss. So, let's just jump right into it, lads. With the window opening, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is obviously set to take control, and you would expect some significant changes in this specific window and other changes as well to be made. If we had to put ourselves, if we had to put ourselves in their shoes, lads, what are we addressing, and what players are we bringing in? So, Shreyas, I'll go to you first on this one. For you personally, what would you like to see?
I think I genuinely would like to see, first off, getting another centre back in during the space of the next transfer window. I think we are in desperate need of a centre back who can come in and solidify that back line, because I still don't know when Lisandro Martinez will be back, because he's going to have that surgery. It will take him time to recover as well, and I hope that he takes the required rest that he needs and then he comes back, so that he doesn't end up aggravating his injury again. Then you've got Rafael Varane, who, when he's available, is one of the finest players that you can have. But because of his injury issues as well, that backline is right now just left with Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Johnny Evans, and that's not a reliable backline to have, especially with the kind of games and competitions that we are in. So I would be looking to strengthen a lot more in that centre back department. Whether it you could go for someone like a Goncalo Inacio from Sporting. He's been regarded as a player who will be moving to a top club really soon, probably in the next window. So why wait for the next summer? Let's just get him in during the winter window itself if we can. Or Antonio Silva once again from Benfica, someone who's been around the radar for quite some time, and United have actually been monitoring him for a couple of weeks, or I think a couple of fixtures as well. So he is an option that could be gone for. Except that, if we are lucky, probably another midfielder who can come in, because once again, we need depth in that area. We need someone who can play box to box. We do have Casemiro and Amrabat, but what is the plan when Casemiro or Amrabat, one of them, isn't there? So you need someone who can slot in into that midfield and do that job for us. So another midfielder, a centre back. I think once you get those two, at least, I think for the time being, we can be good. Except that, I think there need to be changes. The other changes need to be at the board level when it comes to appointing the right people at the right positions, especially when it comes to the director of football, the sporting director, someone who can just look at the outgoings of the club, and first off, just, I think, getting a fairer picture of where United actually stands when it comes to the financial side of things. Right now, we just know it, as an overview, or as an, just from the, we don't know anything when it comes to the finer text. Right now, we just know it as an overview. So we need to be getting a much clearer view as to, when we do have a debt, but how is it categorized? How is it going to be paid off? How much time will it actually take United to be, actually free of the glazer? There are a lot of things that will come into context in there. So I think getting clarity on that, getting the right people in who will be, there for a considerable amount of time and can make good changes for the club. And if we are lucky, I would say a couple of signings, one centre back and probably another midfielder.
That's interesting. It feels like there's a lot of change that needs to be made in order for Sir Jim to kind of turn things around into his kind of benefit. Chivi, I know you obviously you really want a sporting director, and I know you said on record before that you don't care who, as long as it's one of the best in business. But in terms of players, do you feel like we need acquisitions in January? And if so, what positions would you look at?
I mean, Shreyas mentioned the obvious places that we need players in, but I'm going to take your question a little bit to another level or
Go
layer.
for it.
Yeah, I mean, we need emergency players, but what I want to see is some sort of plan, because say we go and get a couple of players now in January, then in the summer we'll just have lots of players. Like I need to see a plan, and I need us to get the right players, with the right profile of players, and there should be a plan to sort of phase out some of the players that we already have. So Harry Maguire is not, obviously is not in the manager's plans. Jadon Sancho is kind of like, on a bit of a, we don't really know what's going to go on there. Donny van de Beek, just players who are on the fringes. I'd like to see a plan for us to sort of move them out, or a decisive plan. Are they staying? Are they going? What's happening? That's what I want to see. And I want to see a plan that sort of doesn't just focus on January, but then a plan that in motion so that we are ready for the summer. So I'm more than willing, and I know this is a very unpopular, this will be a very unpopular opinion, but I'm more than happy to write off the season if we're going to plan properly for the summer, so that we start properly. And I don't mean just, chuck everything away, but I'm just saying we don't need to make purchases if it's not the right profile of player. So, for example, if, we go and get some 36-year-old defender who's free and who's available, all the quick fixes that we've been doing, the papering over the cracks, if I can use that cliche that we've heard 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I don't want to see any of that. I want to see decisive. I want to see a decisive plan, and just, we must be sick and tired of all these short-term fixes. I want to see something for the long term. And if that means not buying anyone and using what we have, and then trying to, I don't want to use the word groom, but like try and
Speaking of grooming,
yes,
someone's clearly grooming himself. This is Brian, everyone, by the way, for anyone who's wondering.
yeah, but yeah,
a new name.
Yeah, start chatting up players for next summer. So, for example, there's this, apart from there's the Benfica centre back, but there's also a young Benfica midfielder everyone's kind of talking about.
John Neves, I think his name is.
Yeah, so let's start talking to people like that. Even if they can't come in January, let's start securing them for the summer.
Yeah.
We talked about Casemiro in your video, Nick, and Shiraz just mentioned what happens with Casemiro. We should start, talking to people like that. I want to see that sort of plan. I'm sick and tired of quick fixes. If it means we drop out of the top 5, top 6, that's fine. People drop out and come back again. So I'm more than happy with that. But then things like the Sancho situation, the Van de Beek situation, let's know what's happening with those ones. And we need, if it means that we sit down with Eric Ten Hag and say, listen, is he staying? Is he going? If he's going, let's find a way to start phasing him out now. And also, when it comes to changes at board level, I think we're due some experience, in this in the decision-making department. I'm sure John Murta and Richard Arnold are good in other things, right? But when it comes to managing players, player transfers, things like that, they've made it clear that they're not competent enough. So they don't have to go, but they can just be moved into other positions and then get people in to come in and make the right decisions for us going forward as far as players and the squad.
Well, I'm pretty sure they had positions before the ones it was in now, because obviously when Woodward was in, Richard Arnold, I think, was in charge of commercial things and things like that. And then Murta equally as well has been at the club for years. So whether they'll actually just be, rather removed from their role or actually removed from the club, I don't think that'd happen. I think you might be right. They might actually, be put somewhere else.
In fairness to Woodward, he was brilliant.
Commercially.
As far as commercial, he was absolutely brilliant. It's just the football side of things. He was just, he was a novice. So, and Richard Arnold was under him. So, if Arnold can go back and just go back, he'll probably be really happy with that sort of position, because it takes him out of the limelight.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
You're probably thinking, please, fucking,
Please, just
demote
get
me
me.
or whatever, send me to a different thing. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. In terms of names that are being mentioned, we've heard obviously like Paul Mitchell's the obvious one. You've got Michael Edwards, I think, and a few others. I think one that's at Juventus currently, but was at PSG as well. Can't remember the guy's name. We've been like Jean-Claude Summit, is it something like that?
Blanc,
Uh,
Jean Baptiste Blanc or something.
Yeah, but I think it's something like that. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff now, and I don't know if it's just like these people who wanted Qatar in, and they're saying like, "Oh, Paul Mitchell's an obvious choice. It's this is a British thing," and blah blah, all this kind of stuff. And I'm sat there and thinking, if Sheikh Jassim would have come in and brought Paul Mitchell in, everyone would be fucking screaming it from the rooftops, and they'd be like, "Such a smart, decision, bringing something that's astute. It's this, it's that, whatever, blah blah blah." Would you be happy with any of them names that I've just mentioned, Shreyas, if they was to come in?
Yeah, I would be, because at least it would be a positive start. Under this partial new reign, at least we'll see some direction actually getting into the club, because under Ten Hag, I still not seen any player or any signing being made which has come from the scouting department, or which has come uh, not from the side of the manager. Right now, whenever a transfer window pulls up, I think Ten Hag has got to do so much of work. First, he has to scout the players himself. He has to, recommend players himself. And practically, I think even if people do go out for players and scout them, I think they just go by, players that Ten Hag has worked with earlier. And in this squad right now, I think Ten Hag has got a lot to do. He's not got that sort of backing that some burden actually gets taken off his shoulders, and he can just focus on getting the training, getting the sort of play style that he wants to, and perfect it with the sort of players that he has at his disposal right now. He's just got too much on his plate, I would say. Once this sort of a profile actually enters our club, I think Ten Hag gets a much better helping hand. That's why even at the time of Ragnick, I was really excited at the time, because it was being said that he'll still stick around the club. So I thought that he's someone who has got a lot of experience. He's been scouting talents. He's done it at the better clubs as well. Probably he brings it to Man United, but it didn't happen. So hopefully it happens now, and perhaps we after quite some time we might also even see players who other clubs might not even have heard names of, but just come in and actually start performing quite well in the Premier League.
But, I mean, for Ten Hag to go from fucking Overmars and Van der Sar to John Murter and Richard Arnold, that's got to be some like proper drop off on it in terms of how he was functioning, and that kind of well-oiled engine that they've got there. He must have just been like, what the fuck? That's probably why he's taking a lot of stuff into his own hands, including recruitment. What about players that need shipping out in your mind, Chivy? And just very quickly, Brian's put a comment in there saying 100%, Chivy, there needs to be a long-term plan in place and build the squad based on that, competing for trophies in 3 years' time and consistently every year after that as well. So he's agreeing with you. Yeah. But what about players need moving on? I know you touched on a couple before, but in general, is there quite a few in your mind? It's a list.
Yeah, I mean, we've got quite a few fringe players, players on the fringe that, clearly don't appear to have a future at the club, or even if they do, it's not made very clear by the manager. So, first team players coming from the academy, we all thought Alvaro Fernandez was going to play a role. He got shipped out on loan. It doesn't look like he's in the manager's plans for some reason. Of course, the obvious ones with Donny van der Beek, Scott McTominay, Harry Maguire. No, I'm not saying they should leave. I'm just saying these are players.
It's interesting in general, just because of how he's playing at the moment, the form that he's currently capturing, to see if he does actually go, or if the manager changes the manager's mind.
It just seems to us, the fans. Obviously, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but for us, it just seems like they're the ones that kind of like 1 foot out, 1 foot in. They were the ones most linked to with a move away. So I said Donny, Harry Maguire, Sancho, Martial. Like, there's a lot of players that don't seem to be, part of the, manager's plans. Like, if you look at a team like Arsenal, like, everyone is on board.
Yeah.
As it seems, everyone's on board at Arsenal. Everyone's on board at City. Everyone's kind of on board at Liverpool. They're all part of the manager's teams. There's no sort of, undecided sort of players. But then with us, there's just so much up in the air. So there's quite a few. And like I said, also with the youth team as well, because we'd like to see a conveyor belt, because this is when we would have actually made use of our youth players. Now that we're being struck with injuries left, right, and centre, we could have had Ted Mengi come in, or what's his name, Bernard, Dishon Bernard.
He's gone. He's gone.
He's gone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So so players like that, like, we could have really, really relied on. Isaac Hansen is a good player as well. Joe Hugo, what's going on with them? Like, these are players that are performing really well in the under 23s, but we don't seem to see them make a step. It's literally Omari Forson and Kobe. That's it. So I'd just like to see some sort of, hopefully and I think another thing is, because obviously the Glazers were going to sell, or it looked like they were going to accept this minority investment, it seemed that we couldn't make any real decisions on players, and everything kind of ground to a halt. So now that we've got, if it's agreed that Jim Ratcliffe comes in, probably we can see some sort of movement with players and stuff, like, and decisions and stuff like that.
See, from all the reports that I've been reading, from like the Times and good outlets who have always had kind of strong links to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, all saying that he's going to be ruthless, and he's already lining out. He's probably doing it for a while. Let's be honest. He's probably not just like, oh shit, I'm going to take sporting control of United. Let's start writing some of the things down that we should do. He'll probably have a plan in place already. So I'm interested to see how he goes about that. Sorry, I think Paul Mitchell is an interesting one, and there's been some quotes. He spoke to Sky Sports in July 2022. So Eric Ten Hag's first pre-season in charge after the horrific one that we just had. And he was speaking about us, and he says, I think context is important to measure what Manchester United's current situation is, but I think they do need to get to the point of really putting down what Manchester United needs to be in the modern game. We are a long time from the Sir Alex Ferguson era. Eric Ten Hag is a top coach from Ajax, but they need a top blueprint, not only for now, but for the next 5 years, and work towards that. And sometimes on that journey, there are hard moments when you don't get the right results, even though you're doing the right things. Do you guys think we have an identity crisis? Sorry, you look at teams like Liverpool, Man City, you know what type of players they're going to bring in, you know what style of football they're going to play. I mean, even West Ham, you know what type of player they're going for, you know how David Moyes is going to set up and play. But with us, I feel like there's a bit of like clouded confusion there when you watch us. Like, what is our style? I know what we're trying to do, but what is our style? You know what I mean? Like,
I think right now we, by the looks of the manager and by what he said, we have an idea of what he wants this team to be and what he wants this team to play like. But if I have to look into the first few games of the season, we are a long way from that. We haven't really been at that level where, he wants to play that high press, high energy, transitional way of football where Bruno and Mount can act as conveyor belts for players like Højlund and Rashford. And on top of that, I think, yes, the injuries have got a lot to do with that. We've got, our key players out. The team hasn't really integrated well enough. But I think the thing is, even with the players that we have available, even, you can see that there is a lot of confusion. Like, they are not on the same page. Like, the sort of coordination that you can see in even teams like Chelsea at times, their players, they know where to be, they know what positions to occupy, they know how they have to conduct themselves on the field. With United, there seems to be a lot of confusion, especially with certain players. There actually looks like a lack of effort at times as well from certain players on the field. Like, we can see that, for example, if I have to compare Rashford and Garnacho, Rashford is on the pitch, he's still not at the level that he was at performing at last season, but he doesn't track back. He never tracks back. Garnacho comes on, it's in his instinct. Like, the moment we lose the ball on the left flank, you can see Garnacho making the sprint right back to the defensive line and trying to actually make that tackle, trying to make that press, but we don't see that from Rashford. And I think there is still going to be, the fact is there has been a lot of chopping and changing in our entire team. But I think there is like, even if you have to look into the game against Brentford, the game we had against Palace, the game we had against Galatasaray, in the first half we played a certain type of football. Second half we played a different style of football. Even against Palace, same happened against Brentford. So I think right now we've, first off, for getting where Ten Hag wants to be, we first need to be consistent with our approach, especially when it comes to the entirety of the 90 minutes. We cannot be performing like we play a certain type of football for 45 minutes, then we play a certain type of football for 45 minutes because we are desperate and we are trailing by a goal. We are able to hold down the fort for 20 minutes, then in the next that 20 to 25th minute mark, our concentration and the focus just deviates. We concede a goal and the heads drop. A lot of things need to change. There needs to be some mental toughness into this, that should be brought into this team. And I think players, they need to be taking more responsibility and actually putting more effort in onto the pitch.
I think there's a number of questions coming out from this. Brian mentions there we've definitely got an identity crisis. We've got players still from different kind of managers. And obviously it seems different from last season. But what's been the biggest change, or the biggest worry, should I say, for you, Chivi, when you watch the play now? What stands out for you that we have tweaked and hasn't quite worked?
I think as far as identity goes, like, we know what the manager wants to do. He said it, like, he wants to play transition football. Now, that's a big leap from what we were playing last season. I think at the end of last season, I think we can all say that we kind of had an idea of what he wanted to do. But he's completely changed the plan this season. So even though we know what he wants to do, it's a very risky sort of football style.
High risk, high reward, they say.
Yeah, it's a high risk, high reward style of football. And I don't think any of these players have played that type of football before. So it will take time for them to catch on to what he's trying to do. So right now, and even though they know what they want to do, it's going to be hard for them to implement it on the pitch. So to us, it seems like these guys don't know what they want. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah. But the manager has given them strict. He has a plan, and even if it's not an effective plan, it is a plan that he has. Now, I'm not a big fan of this style of football. I'm sure I've let you guys know this 1,000 times. I want us to go back.
Nice
control. Yeah, I like control. I want to see triangles. I want to see the ball. I hate the ball in the air. I want to see, unless it's Paul Scholes, right? Or David Beckham, that's like cross. Don't want to see the ball in the air. I'd like to see it on the floor. Let's play these triangles. Let's invite them on and hit them on the counter. But that's just me. I'm just a fan. I don't know anything about tactics or whatever. But I think the manager knows what he wants to do. And I think the hardest part is just for the players to be able to get it. Now, before Ten Hag came that summer, when it was officially announced that he was going to come, I watched an interview with a player at Utrecht, and I don't remember who the guy was, but he was saying when Ten Hag first went to Utrecht and implemented a style of football there, they hated it. They absolutely hated it, and they had a terrible time. But then it got to the point where in his sleep, he could just wake up and play with his eyes closed because he drilled it in, and it took some time for the players. And then when they got it, they were like, so this is what he's trying to do. And that's when things just started going up for him, for them, for the team at Ten Hag. So the problem now with fans is that we don't have fans don't have patience anymore. Like we want everything to happen immediately. Right now, he should come in and play 4-4-2, put the settings on FIFA, and let's you know what I mean. Like it just doesn't happen that way. For a lot of people.
It's hard though. Sorry to interject that. It's hard trying to tell that to a fan and I'm not on a high horse here or anything like that, because obviously we watch a lot of football. We have like detailed discussions. For like an average, not like a casual fan or whatever, they're just like kind of watching it. Like I don't think they comprehend how difficult of a job it is. They see football from Pep and football from Arteta, and it's like they had years before they was in that position. You do realise that, like they had time. And they had time to clear players out and bring players in. Like this is what Ten Hag is doing right now. So I understand it.
You've mentioned really good examples there. So let's look at the three: Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City.
Man City.
I think it took. So Guardiola came into a winning side and came third in his first season. Fair play to him, he's an accomplished manager, and he had lots and lots and lots of money behind him, and he had a very competent sporting director who he had worked with at Barcelona before, so fair play to him. Jurgen Klopp didn't win any trophy in his first 3 seasons, and then when they started winning trophies, it was literally just like it was literally like a waterfall of trophies. When he started to win in his 4th season was when everything just started pouring in. And look at Arteta as well now. They've won the FA Cup and I think Charity Shield. But remember that they came 8th, and 5th.
Yeah.
And their fans wanted him gone. And all of a sudden it's clicked. So I sympathize with fans who want to see change immediately. But I think we need to grow some thick skin here. We need to be realistic about this club. And it's not going to be an overnight change. It will happen. Just because we don't make Champions League one season doesn't mean we're banished forever to the Europa League. We can make changes. And if we have the success with Arsenal is that they had a plan and they stuck to it, and they stuck to the manager. Regardless of he was literally dead. He was a dead man walking, but they stuck with him, and they're reaping the benefits now. So it will take time, and I just wish fans can just be a little bit more patient. But I understand, because we're seeing everything happening around us, everyone is kind of on the up. This new Spurs manager has come in, and everything is fine and dandy. Yeah. But his time will come. His time will come.
Let's see if they're saying the same thing this time next year. When he hit
exactly.
Let's see how he handles that. Ten Hag's going through his rough patch in a minute, but everyone was praising him last season, saying it's the next best thing since sliced bread, which I don't disagree with. I think he's done really, really well, given the circumstances. And I also understand. I've always said this myself. I understand why he's gone with that style of play, because you look at the individual profiles of every one of our players. It kind of suits that. Mount, Bruno, Rashford, they do things very quickly. They're not good at retention.
We don't have any forwards who can retain the ball for quite some time.
No, that's what I mean.
Well, now we do. Now we do with
Rasmus.
Rasmus. I meant wingers and attacking midfielders wise.
Yeah, so it makes sense to me why he would go down that way. I just think, like you said, it's going to take time to get it. Because I've seen periods in games where it's worked. Even the first half against Spurs, I know we got beat by Spurs, but I saw that, and that was recycled. Like we stayed on him with that and was creating loads of chances, but just then never fucking finished them. So I can see it there.
Pre-season against Arsenal.
Yeah,
exactly.
There was a time when there was a time when I counting the seconds that it was taking the ball from ours to there, and it was literally like 3 seconds. Exactly. It was a pass, and then it was over, and then we're in, and then we have to pay. So I get it, but it's just I'm one of those people who's like safety first and all that.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the risk.
I get it. But yeah, let's see what happens with that. So another quote from Paul Mitchell Shreyas saying to have that, that kind of sustained success over that period, the consistency of the decision making will yield a good end result. I think we've seen that at both Man City and Liverpool, that when you adopt that long-term strategy, you can get real consistency and sustainable success. I think that's the biggest thing for Manchester United, putting down their identity of what they want to be today, but most crucially, what they want to be in 5 years' time and where they want to be and what they want to look like, from everything from young players to the style of play to the whole culture at Manchester United. And you can just tell Kaiti that he's good friends with Rangnick, because everything he was saying there is basically mirroring what Rangnick was saying, singing from the same hymn sheet effectively, which is interesting because I don't know why that relationship never worked out with Rangnick and Erik ten Hag. I don't know what the specifics are behind that, but that's going to be important as well in it, Shreyas, having that kind of harmony amongst the manager, whoever it is that comes in.
Yeah, once again, the manager and whoever has to come in, even if it's Paul Mitchell, I think one thing is they need to be on the same page. They need to be well directed towards the need of the team, and especially with the style of play, whether the style of play is sustainable or not. With Liverpool, we've seen at times, like when they go deep into a season, deep into competitions, it has its effect on its team, the next season. It has a toll on the players.
Like it has on us this season.
Exactly my point. We went deep into a lot of competitions, played a lot of games. Eventually, it has had a toll on our players as well. So one thing is they need to figure out a sustainable way of playing football, because as much as we hate it, the schedule might actually just get worse and worse as the time passes by. Right now we're saying that we play 2 or 3 games. Maybe in few years' time, it becomes 4 times a week. So I think eventually we need to be figuring out how to safeguard these players, how to play a way of football which doesn't really, put them in as much risk, and at the same time gets the best out of them as well. They can perform quite well, and the team as a whole is able to compete for trophies, and that's what Ten Hag and all once these guys come in at the board level as well would be working towards. Um, with If you have to look into Liverpool as well as City, the core of their team never gets changed. Like even if this season they've brought in players like Kovacic or Jeremy Doku, the core with Bernardo Silva, players like Ruben Diaz, Nathan Ake, I would say
Bueno.
as well has become. There's been a lot of players in that Man City lineup who have not changed. They in every season when you see the kind of players they pick, they are just players who are like finishing touches to a team. The core stays the same. The same I would say for Liverpool. Yes, they have a revamped midfield, but if you look at their attack, it's the same. Luis Diaz, Darwin Nunes, Mo Salah. In the defense as well, there's not really been that much of chopping and changing. Yes, they have rebuilded their entire midfield, but the players that they've actually gone for, if I just have to look at those three players, they can actually perform to the best of their ability for the next 5 to 6 years. They're all very young. They've got loads of potential and have been doing quite well, especially Szoboszlai. He's come in, he's been ripping it apart for them. So I think United needs to be working towards the same figure as well. Because if I have to look into the next 5 years, will Bruno be performing at the top of his ability when he's like 33, 34? There's a doubt over there. Casemiro will definitely need replacing. Even if we permanently sign Amrabat, after 5 years, even he'll be 32.
Yeah.
So Mason Mount, yes, he'll still be young, but that's just one midfielder. Except that the entire slot line is, it's completely open. In the attack, Hoyland is there, but except that, because we have not got wingers who have been performing that consistently, slots are open.
I think he has brought in a few, like Sandro 24, Hoyland's obviously 20. You've got a few, Mason Mount's 24. So he's starting to bring in that age profile who suit the system. But it's been a couple of windows and he's had to prioritise certain things. Like I'm sure he probably would have got rid of the goalkeeper in the first season if the funds had stretched. And again, I can see why he brought in Onana. I know a lot of people are not mega fans of him at the minute, and I absolutely understand that. I still think he'll come good. I think he'll be a good goalkeeper for us, but it's tough when you make that many mistakes at the start, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I do like the players he's brought in. I have to admit, I really, really do. You mentioned Bruno Fernandes there, and I really wanted to talk about him because I don't know what it is for me. I feel like I broke like a broken record because I feel like I'm constantly talking about him. I watch him for Portugal, right? And he's been unbelievable for them. Yeah, he's got his 8 games started. He's got the
most goals and assists.
The most assists, most big chances created, most goals and assists together, like goal involvements. And then I was looking at United stats: 2 goals, 1 assist, 5 chances created, 3 goal involvements in the league. And I'm sat there scratching my head and I'm thinking, why is it us who are not getting the best out of him, Chive? Or is it the players around him that have dropped off below the standards? Like, what is it for you why Bruno hasn't been? Or do you think Bruno's been good? I don't know.
I've seen like the goal highlights. I haven't watched any of the matches, but I've seen the goal highlights, and obviously I've heard about the stats that he's putting up. It could be a number of things. Like you can't just take a player from Man United and put it. I think it's the role he plays. I don't know what role he plays for Portugal, but I think it's probably a freer role. The players around him as well. Think about he's got very good decision makers around him. I know they've got that. I think his name is Octavio.
Octavio. Yeah.
Or the winger, is it?
Yeah, I think he operates on the right-hand side.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He's one of them ones where he's a really good player, but he always makes the right decision, and he just keeps it simple, right? He's not trying to overdo anything. He's got people like João Felix around him, who's in brilliant form. He's got João Cancelo. He's got. I mean, look at the players around him. Bernardo Silva.
Clever players as well. Very clever players.
Very, very clever players. So that could be one thing. But let's not downplay the off-field issues at Manchester United. It's not a good place to be around at the moment. And I've said it so many times. We've said it so many times. Like these guys, they're human, right? If things aren't going wrong in your work, apart from being a footballer, like we all have places. Sure, as you're a student, we all work and stuff like that. Like if things aren't going on well in your place of work or in your school, it's going to affect how you perform, and that could be it. It could be like, poof, I can't wait to leave Manchester. Just let my hair down, yeah, just go and play. You know, so it could be a number of things. I can't put my finger on it, per se, but I would imagine he plays, much better. I don't know what role he plays for Portugal, but it's probably not the same as in Manchester. And you feel the weight of the armband, especially when you're playing at home. Everyone's looking for you to do that, to be the guy. Every single decision you make is like, and then you're playing with people around you who are not in sync, who are not on form. It's bound to affect it. So it's just one of those things. Because Fernandes is one of those players. I'm not his biggest fan, but I know for a fact that he would always score or assist. It's it always happens. There's certain players that they just attract.
Are you not worried about his form this season? Do you think it is a case of everything that's going on, and eventually he'll get up to that point that he was?
I'm not worried about his form because I know that once we kick on, he'll pick up. I'm not worried about his form at all. I know he'll come good. I hope he does come good and put people like me in the mud. But I really, because we really rely on this guy. And I don't know if the captain armband was the, I'm sure he wants it.
I don't think it is. I think he's too erratic. I think he cares too much in a certain sense. Thing.
Yeah. So like a captain should also be a leader. I don't know if he's that much of a leader. Like I was watching, there was I don't know this guy's name. Some guy, I was just watching a YouTube clip, and the way he put it, he was like, when he played, if he plays for Real Madrid, like he said, he will go to war with Sergio Ramos.
Yeah,
right.
I know.
He would he would go to war with Roy Keane. I know. Oh yeah, he's jumping in. I'm jumping in. Bruno, I don't know. Like,
you have to have that volume where it's dial it up at the right point and dial it down at the right point, and he seems to be like dialed up consistently, whatever game it is at whatever time. Sometimes I just feel like, I don't know, his manager might like that, but I just feel like bringing him aside and say, Bruno, look, there's chaos going on the pitch at the moment. Get you guys together, focus on your shit, and let's get back into this game rather than moaning at every ref, every official, every opposition player because you're pissed off. I understand why you're annoyed, but have that controlled aggression to drag your fucking teammates back into the. That's what I want to see.
I love the passion. I love the passion that he shows.
You can't fault it.
Yeah, I relate to it a lot. Like I really, really like it, but I just don't know if he's that much of a leader. But back to his form, I'm not worried. I think he'll click on. We just need a few players around him to take, and he's the type of player that I think Bruno tries to overcompensate. So just stick to your position. He's one of them ones where he feels responsible for everything. So like he'd want to go back and get the ball when he wants to chase. He wants to just play your position that you're supposed to play. And I was a fan of him playing on the right last season, but this season, man, it's not. Yeah,
it ain't working this season, mate. For whatever, whatever it is.
I like thinking wingers. I like people who thinking wingers who can control the game from the side, or like how Tadic was. I thought he could kind of do like a Tadic for us when Tadic was Ajax, but it hasn't worked out. Once we get players back, we have players right in the right positions. I'm sure his quality will come through.
I'm going to come to you in a second, Troy. I was going to read out a couple of comments. Xavi Simmons is in the chat. Big up to you. You absolute legend. Come over from TikTok. Brian Casey saying better and more consistent players around him. Nujable says, good evening, lads. Good evening to yourself, sir. Make sure you do leave a like on the video for us and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. And then Brian Casey said Varane or Casemiro would have been the perfect captain. Yeah, I think both of them have that measured approach about him. The two things I would say about Varane is injured way too much. So in your important games, when you get important runs, sometimes he's out and you need your captain for that.
Yeah.
So that would be a concern for me personally. Casemiro, yes, but then you see a bit of a decline this season. You're like, I don't know. I personally would have gone with someone like the Sandro, but then he's injured as well. So it's like, fuck knows who do you go with? Just the last question on Bruno Fernandes, Treyas. Do you think it's a case of burnout as well? Would that be fair to say, because of last season, the amount of minutes played, and this is kind of added into a combination of things?
I don't know if it's burnout, because I have seen his matches for Portugal, and whenever I have seen him for Portugal playing, it's never looked like that he's tired. Like, even if it's like the 85th minute or 86th minute of the game, the way he's able to exert himself, sometimes it's effortless for him in that Portugal team, and he basically plays like a right midfielder there. Like, even in
Yeah.
that midfield
The
where he's
reason,
slotted, he plays as a right
the
hand side. Yeah,
I was just gonna say the reason why I asked, because like we speak about it then, he's so emotionally invested and he's so physically invested. It takes a lot out of you, and to be
yeah,
that guy who's played the most amount of minutes in Europe, it worries me a little bit.
it does. And I think for the national team, he's got, I think, bigger figures in that Portugal team for sure, who can actually take that pressure off him when it, comes to being like, if Portugal are a goal down, they've got a much better figure who they can rely on for actually integrating the side and just going for it. At United right now, we don't have that element. Like, it happened once during the game against Nottingham when we were 2-0 down, and Bruno just stepped up and just completely played off Nottingham off the park in that game. But except that, it hasn't happened. Sometimes he overtries it. Yes, he's been played out of the position on the right wing as well, but sometimes it has worked for him. It has worked last season on a couple of occasions as well. This season, it just feels like he takes in, so much, and he wants to be as effective, and because the players that he's surrounded by, even they are not able to, like, just carry the pressure off and just be able to immerse themselves in the play and just be able to occupy those spaces for Bruno to actually play his game. That's not even been happening. Another factor is, this is for him, for Bruno, it is a different striker to play alongside with. Højlund is a new signing. Uh, we expected that Bruno's number to get better with the striker, but he needs to be much more used to actually playing with that striker. I think
And
with time that relationship will flourish, and when that relationship will flourish, I think Højlund will actually have much better games, and so will Bruno, because we do know that once Bruno actually gets on the pace, once he finds form, he's a consistent player. It's not like he'll play one good game and then he just completely disappears for the next 10. He's someone who will be present in for a run of 10 to 15 games, and if he's able to, I think once he finds that form, we'll be scoring much a lot more goals. The question is, how will this team be able to regain this sort of confidence? Because right now, I'm really not sure as to how our winger situation actually looks like. Rashford hasn't been performing well. Anthony has certain question marks over him. Garnacho has been performing well, but hasn't really been given that start. That right wing position is still a big question mark for me. In the midfield, Casemiro is going to be out for a while. So how is that midfield going to look like? Even that's a big question right now.
well, initially I thought Casemiro he got an ankle injury, but I think he's back for Brazil tonight, which I was like shocked by because I heard he was injured and
I
out.
hope that he's not playing through injury.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
can I just add 2 points to what
Yeah,
Shaz was saying? It just got to me now, and I think one of the reasons might be, well, there's 2 things. First of all, I think it might be balance in the squad. So if you look at the front three, so of Rashford, Bruno, and Mason Mount, they're kind of like a similar sort of player. They're very instinctive players, and I don't think Bruno Fernandes has too many thinkers around him. When you go to Portugal, you have Bernardo Silva, you have Rafa, who plays for Benfica.
Benfica,
Really, yeah, really intelligent player. Really, they're thinkers. They're not instinctive. So
yeah,
then, when you have that, and then you have a player like Bruno, who's more instinctive, it's more of a balance. But then when you have 3 people around you who do the same thing, who really can't keep, Bruno is really not that good at keeping the ball. Mount isn't the best at keeping the ball. Marcus Rashford isn't the best at keeping the ball. It could be that, I'm not saying it is, but that balance might actually come into play. Secondly, about the burnout. Liverpool just had a very terrible season that just went by, but the season before then, they literally went to 4 finals. They went to Carling Cup final, FA Cup final. They played the Premier League last game, and they went to the Champions League final. And they played more games than anyone else. And we just played more games more than anyone. Went to Carling Cup final, went to the FA Cup final. We played more games than anyone. So, it's possible. And remember, after that Liverpool season, they just had lots of injuries. Like they literally did them. And we're
That's why I'm
having
worried
the
for
same
the
thing.
season though, because I feel like it's going to be like because their full season was shit. It weren't just like well, maybe they got it back a little bit towards
They
the end,
kind
but
of tried to claw it
I
back
feel
towards
like
the end.
we're gonna be
Yeah, yeah,
scrapping
yeah,
for Champions League
yeah.
towards the end equally. That's what I feel
So
it's gonna be like.
it could be that because we played that many games as well, and it was really, really intensive, and we
Plus
went
World
to
Cup,
finals.
don't forget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then remember, So with the World Cup and then all the injuries that we had, because at some point we were playing with the 11 players, and I was kind of relieved when we got knocked out of the Europa League Cup because we couldn't have
Yeah.
done it.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
wouldn't have. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
we couldn't
for
have done
sure.
it. Yeah.
Mm.
So that could also play a part because players now complain more about playing time. Varane has complained.
Van
Erling
Dijk's
Haaland has complained.
complained.
Van Dijk, De
Loads.
Bruyne, everyone's complaining about how much time we're playing. So that could also be a thing, you know.
Yeah, I do think it's a combination of things. If you think about pre-season, which we've not even mentioned, the amount
Yeah.
of traveling involved and everything like that. So, yeah, it's absolutely spot on. Yeah, I had something funny towards the end. So I saw a report from Chris Wheeler that he'd put Rasmus Højlund, Sofyan Amrabat, Sergio Johnny Altay, Bayern Day have yet to sing their Man United initiation songs, but their time will come. And I thought it got me thinking, if you guys had an initiation song, if you just joined Old Trafford and they asked you to sing one, what would your initiation song be? And a question to the chat as well. So if you're in the dressing room, think about what's at play here. You've got a full squad in front of you. What song would you go for as the initiation song?
I'm way too cheeky to not choose anything that's cringy. That just makes everyone laugh.
Oh, you would actually go for something cringy.
I'll go for something super cringy to just make everyone uncomfortable. Like
what would your super?
There's a song. You guys will know this, but she's like a really old singer called Millie Riperton.
Millie Riperton.
Yeah,
I don't think I've heard of her.
and she is an American singer, like in the 70s. She's passed away now.
Okay.
But there's a song that says "Inside My Love."
Oh,
and
wow.
the chorus says, "When you come inside me, if you come inside."
And you're singing this as your ending. What? Your initiation song.
It's just.
It's all the squad's gonna be. You got Maguire there like that.
It's so crazy. I know the funny thing. It was a hit. It was an absolute hit, but it's just the most cringe. It's so cringe. Like when I listen to it, I'm like, how the fuck did no one like in the studio? If I was the engineer in the studio, like I would just be dying of laughter. So like, I'll probably just choose something to just make everyone cringe. Like,
yeah, I mean, you get a laugh, especially when you get to the chorus.
Yeah, her daughter's an actress now. But I can't remember her name. But yeah, Millie Riperton. Inside My Love. And I'll sing it with a straight face, basically.
Yeah, and just make direct eye contact with Eric Ten Hag while she's singing it as well. Straight down the barrel. Just looking at him like that. When you come inside me, just staring at him in his eyes, and Eric Ten Hag's like, getting a bit hot under the collar. Brian Casey said Spandau Ballet Gold. I mean, that's a classic. You got Nujable who said Day and Night. I mean, I don't know how that would go down trying to sing it in a dressing room, but fair enough. Shreyas, have you got an option at all?
I remember the song, it was played a lot during the COVID days, yeah.
Oh, what is that now?
Yeah. I think they'll play that.
I don't think they have any lyrics. I think it's just, does it have lyrics?
I don't think it has lyrics. It's just a tune, I guess.
But how are you gonna? Are you just gonna put it on a boombox and start dancing?
Yeah, and I'll just work like this.
Listen, yeah, forget about the initiation song. I'm gonna fucking break dance for you and body pop. Don't worry about it. Fair enough if you want to do that. Some people don't see themselves as a singer, do they? To be fair, but yeah. Just throw me away, Brian says in the dressing room. I would go for something like a Bohemian Rhapsody. I think it's a bit of a hard number to do, but I reckon I'd give it a good go. Either that or have you Goo Goo Dolls by Iris? Yes? No? No? Chivy, I thought you would have heard of that. No! Right, Brian would have heard of this, because I'm sure it's...
How does it go?
And I'd give up forever to touch
you. That one. Yeah.
You know the one.
Wow, that's boring. Come on.
No, that's a come on. That'd be a classic in the dressing room.
To this. You can see inside me. Will you come inside me? Do you want to ride inside my love?
And you're going to sing this in front of 23 squad members looking at you directly in the eye. They're going to be like, is his transfer gone through yet? Can we cancel it? Fucking hell, man. Wow.
I know myself. I'll choose something.
That's when Eric Ten Hag walks.
Yeah, that's it, like, yeah. That might be the only thing that ever removes the Glazers, like, on a permanent basis.
They'll probably transfer me like the next transfer window.
Yeah, 100%, mate. If you're out on loan,
contract terminated.
Northampton Town or something. But some very interesting song choices there. If you are watching this later on, because I appreciate not everybody watches it live, get yours in the comments section. What would your initiation song be if you was just joining Manchester United? But yeah, let us know. I thought that'd be funny to finish on. We have got England versus Italy tonight. I don't know if anyone gives a shit, but they are playing. I think they're kicking off in about 5 minutes. Any lads? I don't know. I've just literally seen the notification pop up. I was like, oh shit, yeah, they are playing. Anybody watching him at all?
Is it the rugby or what? Football?
Yeah, football. Yeah, rugby. Come on, take me for. Fucking rugby. Fuck that. Sorry to any rugby fans in the chat. No one gives a shit about England. Anyway, right, I'll leave it at that, guys. Thank you very much for everyone who tunes in, whether you're live, like I said, or if you're watching later on. Do check out the video I dropped yesterday on Sir Jim Ratcliffe's plan. Very detailed video on that. And of course, if any of the members haven't watched the vid on Casemiro, I did as well, on his potential decline this season. I think that was a good video for me to say so myself. So yeah, check them videos out. Leave a like on the video for us. Check us out on socials. All the handles are on the right hand side of your screen. And yeah, me, Chivy, and Shrez will see you lot in the next one. Take care in a bit.